Brad Lambert is a very interesting name because he's a guy that we've been talking about on this YouTube channel ever since 2020. The first time we had mentioned Brad Lambert in any of our videos was in the franchise generational tier list that we made back in the summer of 2019, that in which I know a lot of you have been asking me to redo because I mean, it's a cool idea, and as we go forward year by year, there are more players to talk about, and I definitely do want to do that video again. It's just, man, is it tough to go out there and be confident in my assessment of players comparative to when I was a little bit more naive when I was 19 years old. But either way, Brad Lambert first made his presence known on this YouTube channel in that video, because for the 2022 year, we listed how the top 3 of this draft, 2022, was going to feature a 3-headed monster that featured players that were all in that same tier as guys like Alexis Lafreniere or Rasmus Dahlin, 3 players that could be first overall picks in any of the other drafts. Because back in 2020, we had ourselves Shane Wright, Matthew Savoie, and Lambert all tearing apart their individual junior leagues, and it was a sight to behold. The hype that we had for these 3, it was incredible. We were like, wow, we have not seen players do this well at this young of an age in ages, and as a result, you had articles like this one coming out back in that 2020 timeframe by Stephen Ellis, for example. He talks about there's a top 3-headed monster in this 2022 draft, and it's really just a toss-up. Hey, Wright, Savoie, or Lambert? That's going to be the conversation that the first overall team is going to have within their executives. You have this article on The Athletic from May 11th, 2021, NHL Draft 2022, Wheeler's early look at the top 2022 prospects. Now, the picture on the article is of Shane Wright, but Brad Lambert is in the list of top 3 favorites as well, with that same Matthew Savoie. For a long time, it was Wright, Savoie, Lambert, Wright, Savoie, Lambert, Wright, Savoie, Lambert, until this year, where Shane Wright has solidified that first overall spot, or at least in some people's minds he has. Others say that Slafkovsky is giving him a run for his money. You have Matthew Savoie, who is kind of considered in that top 10 role, but isn't really a top 3 player anymore. And then you have Brad Lambert, who went from a first, second, third overall-ish caliber pick all the way down to his consolidated ranking today of 11. Okay, 11 is not that bad. I was kind of hyping this up in a way that made it seem like he fell greater, but in the eyes of some people, he actually did. Brad Lambert right now is 18 years old, 6 feet, 183 as a right-handed forward. He's ranked 11th on the consolidated ranking, 10th by Elite Prospects. Future Consideration has him at 8. McKean's also has him at 8, so there you go. There are 2 scouting outlets that are a lot more optimistic on this guy. Bob McKenzie has him at 11. Craig Button, though, has him at number 35. Dobber Prospects has him at 28. He's ranked 10th by the Puck Authority, 9th by Draft Prospects Hockey, 8th by SportsCenter Recruit, and Smart Scouting actually has him at 5. So this is a player whose projected ranking from 5 to number 35 is so vast. And if you take a look at some of the discourse going around this player on social media in regards to what NHL writers and executives are apparently saying about this guy, Brad Lambert is a player who could very realistically slide past the 15th overall mark of this year's first round. This guy could end up falling, mostly because of all the things that he has gone through over the past calendar year that have really tanked his draft stock. It was just a year ago in May of 2021 where Scott Wheeler was saying that, yeah, Lambert could be a top 3 pick. We made a video on this very YouTube channel talking about how Brad Lambert was the generational Finnish prospect, and that video was uploaded on December 19th, 2019. This was because back when he was in the junior leagues in Finland, he was one of the best players despite being one of the youngest guys. So as his career progressed forward with JYP Jyväskylä and eventually the Pelicans in the Finnish Liga, people were super excited to see what he would be able to do. It's just this year, you take a look at the production that Lambert has had. In the JYP system, he played 24 games and he had 6 points. Definitely not great. In the Pelicans system, he had 25 games played and he had 4 points. Even worse. Now, the caveat here is, when he played against people in his own age range, hey, World Juniors, U20 team, he had 5 points in a 2-game sample that he had over there for Team Finland, and we're likely going to see him do even more when the World Juniors returns in August. Last year, in the World Under-18s, as an underage player, he also was a point per game. He also played at the regular World Juniors, where he had 4 points in 7 games, again, as an underage player. This guy was legitimately great up until this year, and a lot of people would go out there and say, what the hell happened? Where did his production go? He was scoring the lights out in the junior leagues and in international tournaments because we saw aspects of his skill, his speed, his puck control. He's a guy that's really willing to go out there and make fancy plays. He's good at making fancy plays, and he gets rewarded because of it. What happened to Brad Lambert? And I think if you go over to future considerations, and you look at a game report of Brad Lambert from, when the heck was this game over here? This is a report on Brad Lambert written by Rasmus Tornquist from a game on March 24th, 2022, between the Pelicans and Cuckoo. They lost, the Pelicans did, 2-1, and Tornquist goes out there and writes about Lambert in this specific game in a way that I think really highlights just where everything went wrong, quote-unquote. Brad Lambert has long been one of the most talked about prospects for the 2022 draft, mainly because of his offensive abilities and top-of-the-line speed with the puck. He has had a disappointing season production-wise, but when watching him, you still see glimpses of what has made him so highly touted. Lambert seems to be flying every time the play transitions from defense to offense. Once he gets the puck from his defenders and gets going through the neutral zone, he's one of the best players in the league at controlled zone entries. And, I mean, the league is the Finnish Liga. He's only 18 years old. There you go, good compliment right there. Some of the issues in his play, however, become imminent if he doesn't get the puck when building up speed to go up the ice. This leads to Lambert sometimes finding himself stationary near the offensive blue line while the puck is still in his own zone, which is obviously not ideal. His pass selection and puck management also leaves room for improvement, and he doesn't find a lane to cross the blue line with the puck. He went for difficult cross-ice passes in the neutral zone several times, which then led to turnovers. When he does cross the blue line with the puck, he is good at slowing the play down and finding his teammates. I thought, Rasmus Tornquist here, the writer, that he got stuck in the perimeter a bit too much in the offensive zone. I would like to see Lambert push for high-danger areas a bit more, because the skill to challenge defenders is definitely there. Defensively, he does seem active in keeping an eye on both the play and his own player, but his reaction speed was not always quick enough to allow him to break up the opponent's cycles. I still thought he did fairly well defensively in this particular game, but Lambert also needs to work on getting stronger on the puck, since he can't use his speed to get out of every single situation, especially near the boards. The rough season has probably affected his draft stock in many scouts and teams' books, but I still think that talent-wise he is one of the top guys in this year's draft. I would slot him in and around the 3 to 6 range based off of what I've seen from him during this season. We also have had other NHL analysts, okay, not NHL analysts, but draft analysts like Will Scouching, for example, go out there on record several times and talk about how Brad Lambert, when you watch this guy, there are moments where he comes out and he absolutely shines. It's just the way the Pelicans play their game. It's so structurally flawed that once in a while you'd even see this team doing the 4-man breakout shaped in an L where 4 of the guys are all lined up beside each other and you have another guy up high. It's apparent that this type of breakout is something that the Pelicans do at all levels of play and not just at their highest level in the Finnish Liga. Apparently the junior team does this too. And when you have a player that is as offensively gifted as Brad Lambert and you put him into a box, you say, hey, play this system. Do your breakouts by starting out at your own goal line and skating with all your teammates forward at the same time. It leads to a player not being able to capitalize on what's there between his ears and behind his eyes. Brad Lambert was always one of the better and more offensively impactful players in this year's draft class, but this year he's not getting any points because you could argue it's the system around him that's limiting him in that respect. Because of all the concerns that were brought up in this little piece over here, this future considerations scouting report from this one game, the fact that Brad Lambert sometimes waits a little bit too far up at the opposing blue line when his team is trying to break it out, or when he tries to make those cross-team passes and they don't work. A lot of people have been questioning his hockey IQ, at least people that I've seen on NHL scouting platforms as well. But I honestly do think that there's a big portion of that has to do with the system, and it's not a 100% indicative conclusion you can make that his hockey IQ is bad because he's playing in a system that doesn't allow him to use it. So for Brad Lambert, you have scouts like Craig Button saying that this guy should be drafted in the 2nd round because of how poorly his season has gone. But at the end of the day, there are still some scouting outlets like Smart Scouting, for example, that have him at number 5. Rasmus Torquist over here on Future Considerations has Lambert in the 3 to 6 range. So there very well could be still any team that goes out there and says, hey, let's draft Lambert at 7th overall because he's there and we think he's a steal. We think he could be a top 4 pick, but he's here in our laps, so let's take him. And all it really takes is one team to have this kind of philosophy, and there you go, Brad Lambert is going in the top 10, maybe the top 15, maybe a little bit later than that if he's unlucky, but at the end of the day, with some scouting outlets ranking him so low as in the late 20s, early 30s, it's a really considerable fall when you acknowledge where this player was a year ago. So, talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about Brad Lambert. A link will be in the description, not only to the Future Consideration scouting report from the Cuckoo game on March 24th, but also to Scott Wheeler's 2022 draft rankings from last year, where Lambert was a top 3 pick. Talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about Brad Lambert and where you think this guy should go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.